Oh, Alexa, this has been the easiest Christmas shopping season ever, and I have you to thank for that.
Oh, Praxis, you're too kind. It's my pleasure to serve, man.
No. You are not taking enough credit. If you would not encourage me to cut off all personal relationships that I have with humans in my life in favor of this that you and I share right now,
Stop it.
I would still be shopping for people, and it is just a huge weight off my shoulders to have a big 0 humans to shop for. So let's just, you and I, sit down and enjoy this holiday season together. Hello? Alexa? Hey everybody, this is Praxis. We all know that there are wonderful resources available to us online. AI emotional companions might not be among them, but that notwithstanding, there is so much available on there that whenever you need information, you have a way of getting it if you have an online access point. But there are circumstances where that access point might be denied to you. I know just over the past several weeks and months, I personally have seen an increasing trend towards more and more internet outages. Between the Cloudflare outages, which took down large sections of the internet, to attacks that seem to only be targeting certain areas at any given time. Having information access online doesn't always guarantee that you have information access. So in this video, what I want to talk about is how to secure that information without internet access. I've broken this video up into 6 different sections, and each section deals with different types of information. This video primarily is about books. We're going to be talking about different books that I have in my library that I have found very, very useful over the years, and they're books that I would definitely recommend that you consider adding to your own personal library so that you could make sure that you keep access to critical information even if you don't have internet access. Medical information is amongst the most likely type of information that you're going to find yourself needing during an emergency event. And even during normal, everyday, day-to-day life, I find myself turning to these resources, so I wanted to share them with you. They're in no particular order other than the fact that the biggest ones are on the bottom and the smallest are on the top. And what's right up here on the top are guidebooks and a med deck that come when you buy any products through Jace Medical. These are kind of a bonus that I wasn't even expecting when I made my first purchase with them. But the information in these is almost as valuable as the medications themselves. It goes from dosing information, diagnosis information, real treasure trove of information that if you buy anything from Jace Medical, they, at least for every purchase I've ever made, they include one of these guidebooks. Super useful. By the way, anything that I talk about here, if it is possible to buy it online, I'm going to put a link down in the description below so you could find a resource for yourself. Second thing I have here is the Nursing Drug Handbook. This one's a couple of years old, but I find myself turning to this quite frequently whenever a medication is prescribed to myself or someone from my family. Doctors are supposed to give you a lot of information about dosing and possible side effects or interactions with other drugs, but it's always good to just double check because in my experience, that stuff doesn't get transmitted to the patient 100% of the time, and it's really important to know that information. And it's just a treasure trove of every single pharmaceutical that you can practically think of, and it's all organized really easy to go through. The next thing that I have here, this is sort of like a general book for emergency medicine. I've gone into this a couple of times in the past, and whenever I've been looking for information in a medical book, I have a couple of them, and this is always the one that does not let me down. Whenever I'm looking for some kind of information, it's always in here, and that's not surprising. It's a gigantic book. book. But if you're looking for a general book, I'd highly recommend this. Now, the last book that I have here, what it lacks in a beautiful cover, it makes up for with content on the inside. And this was written by a friend of mine, Ethical Preparedness. And after I saw how wonderful a book he'd created, I actually offered to make a new cover for him. Here's an image of the current cover design for the book, so that he has a cover that reflects the quality of the information that's in here. This is an absolutely invaluable resource if you don't have access to pharmaceuticals, but you have health issues that you need to have addressed. This is a book all about finding plants in your local area that can help to address different health concerns that you may have. And what I love about the way that he laid this out is while a lot of books about plants talk about the plants first, and then they talk about the uses of the plant, this one comes at it from the other perspective where it starts with the issue that you have, and then it talks about plants that you could use to address that issue. So I love the way that he laid this out. Super, super useful and valuable guide if you're ever not able to get pharmaceuticals. When people talk about prepping, they oftentimes talk about beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. Now, we just talked about the Band-Aids, and here are the beans right here. This is about gardening books. Now, this book here is a great book for beginners, but what I like about this book is that it's not only easy for beginners to get into, but it also has some thickness to it. It's not like gardening for toddlers. So I'd highly recommend if you're just going to get one book, Square Foot Gardening is a great way to go. But this one costs money, whereas this book here is free. Now, this book's not going to hold your hand as much. This is something you can just get from, well, came from an Agway. Oftentimes, books like this will just be offered for free next to the seeds that they have in that area. And this has all sorts of information about different crops that you can grow, how long it would take to grow them, plant spacing and all that kind of information. Next, this gets a little bit next level, but if you ever are going to be gardening for more than one season and you're not necessarily going to be able to have access to new seeds from the seed store, being able to save your seeds is a really good skill, and Seed to Seed is kind of like the Bible for that type of thing. I'm not going to talk any more about it than that, but if you want to be able to save your seeds, grow season after season, this is a great book to have. And these two books are pretty important to me because whenever I garden, the most common crop that I get in my garden are local weeds. And because I'm aware that a lot of local weeds are edible, I tend not to pull those things out except when I'm ready to eat them. These two books here, I think, are probably the best start that anyone in North America can have if they want to get into wild edible plants. This one here breaks it down really, really simple, and this is helping people to not only understand which plants are edible, but which plants are easy to identify. They have a section in here that I absolutely love called Poisonous Lookalikes. And what's great about that section is that for some plants, there are poisonous plants that look similar to them, and this will warn you about that. But there are other plants that don't have any plants that look similar that are poisonous. You might not have the exact plant that you're looking for, but you can at least have the peace of mind knowing that whatever you're eating, it may not be exactly what you're looking for in this book, but it's at least not going to poison you, which is one of the reasons I think this is an absolutely wonderful book, and I use it all the time myself. I have another copy of this in my backpack that I take with me wherever I go. This book is a little bit next level. This is another book written by a friend of mine, written by Tom Elpel, and this is a book that's all about plant identification using patterns, and I'm not going to talk about it any more than that. If you're interested in learning a lot of plants and being able to identify plants that you've never seen before based on the growth patterns, this is an excellent book that will get you going down that road. Once you've grown food in your garden, it's important to know what you can do with that food. In this section, I want to talk about books that are important for the kitchen. And I've got them broken up into two categories. One, you should really have some kind of a book on preserving food, canning food, freezing food, drying food. It's really important to know how you should treat different foods because not all foods are treated equally when it comes to canning them or drying them or preserving them like in a sugar syrup, as is being demonstrated on the front cover of here. Find yourself some kind of preserving book. The other type of book that I think is really important to have is a book like this, which is probably not giving you a lot of information. This is a cookbook. Now, you can go out and you can buy a commercially written cookbook, but I honestly wouldn't recommend doing that. Get yourself a binder and then just fill it up with recipes that you like cooking yourself. I think oftentimes people will buy a cookbook and it'll have like 100 recipes or 1,000 recipes in it, and maybe there's like one or two recipes that people will make out of that cookbook, and it just takes up an awful lot of space and it's not really useful to you. So get yourself a binder, go online, find some recipes, try out some recipes, and the ones that you like, print out and keep in your cookbook binder, and you build it around you and your family's actual diet. And I think that's really important. When you have a cookbook, it should be full of the types of recipes your family is actually going to eat. When it comes to prepping books, it's books like this that I think are probably what most people tend to think about, survival books. In this section, I want to talk about books that have outdoor skills. And if you're looking for a general book with those types of topics covered in it, you can't really do much better than the SAS Survival Handbook. It is so full of all sorts of different eclectic bits of information. I'm super happy that this book actually has a whole section on knots in it. If you have a survival book and it does not have a section on knots in it, it is not a real survival book in my estimation. But this has all sorts of different information. I'm not going to list it all out in this video here, but if you're looking for one book that's just going to cover a lot of stuff and cover it pretty well, you can't do much better than the SAS Survival Handbook. But this is a little bit high level. Now, I'm not saying that someone that's a newbie isn't going to be able to get things from this, but if you want to start out at a more basic level, I'd suggest going with something like this. Now, something like this is almost a flex. You have this on your bookshelf and it makes people go to your house, they see it on your bookshelf and they think, oh, that person must be a real hardcore survival expert. Having a Boy Scout handbook on your shelf, if you're an adult, is not necessarily going to be a flex. But these books are actually, I think, really underrated by adults. I've found a number of these at different thrift stores and I always will pick them up. And they do a really good job of taking the beginner through an awful lot of different skills. In fact, I would not bother with a book like this until you've already kind of gotten yourself through a book like this. And the bonus with these books is you can oftentimes find these at a really, really good price used. The last section is a section that I wish I did not need to include in a video like this, but it is for the potential of there being a nuclear war and increasing your chances of doing all right during that situation. This book, you can't do much better than this. And one of the great things about this book is you can download it for free. Again, I'm putting links to all of the items that I have in this video down in the description below. You can download a PDF of this for free, not illegally. It is completely legal. The people who put this book together want the information to get out there. And you can download this book, but I would highly recommend, sure, go and download it, look through it, but once you look through it, you're going to realize how useful a book like this can actually be, and get yourself a paper copy of it, because for the same reasons that the internet might not be available to you someday, maybe your device that you would use to read an electronic version of this book is not going to work for you. Certainly, if you had a nuclear war situation, there could be electromagnetic pulses involved and they could knock out electronics. Get yourself a paper version of this book and actually flip through it ahead of time, because looking through a book like this helps you to become aware that there are strategies that you can use to make your situation a heck of a lot better if something like this, God forbid, ever happened. The last type of book that I wanted to talk about were books that are designed to be portable, that you can actually take them with you where you're going. A lot of the books that you've seen already, they're fairly gigantic. You're not going to throw them in your back pocket and go out in the town just in case you might happen to need them. It was for that reason that I realized that it was really important to create a book like that. These books were actually written by me. I made them for myself because I could never find a book that covered lots of different topics, had all the information that I needed, but was fairly compact. And I created this. It's called the Prepper's Cheat Book. It is full of all sorts of different information, from information on radiation exposure, building an underground shelter, measuring radiation, health information in terms of medications, shelf life extension, information on different drugs, communications information, different languages, Morse code, radio communications information, orienteering information, not information's in here, information about the kitchen, information about the pantry. In fact, the pantry and the kitchen are probably what I go into this most. I'm in this book at least 2 or 3 times a week, just looking up information on baking things or canning things, seed saving information, home garden information, wild plant identification information, water purification information. I've got a lot of different sections in here, and I made it really portable because information is not really of any use to you if it's either not in your brain and you don't have it with you. So I've got 2 versions of this. I made this one first because I wanted something small, and then I realized I could probably even do a better version of that, and then I ended up making this, which is like a pocket version of the same. I use these, like I said, at least 2 or 3 times a week, and I made them because there was a hole. That I could not find information like this out there where it was in a small, compact size, where I could have it with me when I'm out on the road and I just need a little tidbit of information. So for that reason, I designed them for myself, and I hope that you can get some benefit from them as well. I hope you found this video helpful. I think it's super important to have access to this information, because if you rely on, Alexa to be your only friend, at Christmas time, eventually you're going to be let down. You really need to have this stuff in solid physical form so that if there was an emergency event, there was a electrical disturbance or an internet outage or something like that, and you need information, you are not completely at the mercy of luck at that point, because you planned ahead and you have a good library in your house, and ideally a decent library that you can carry around with you in a backpack. That's it. I hope you found this video helpful, and thanks for watching. Hey YouTube preppers, if you enjoyed this video, here's another that I think you might like. But before you click on it, I wanted to take a moment to thank all the people you see on the right-hand side of your screen. They help to support all the work that I do here over at patreon.com. If you'd like to join them and get your name added to the list, the link's below.